Dear viewers, before you start, we kindly ask you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Every day we tell gossip and secret stories from insiders. Leave your opinion about this story in the comments. We wish you a pleasant viewing. The studio hall was taut as a string. The red and blue neon lights along the walls, the black gloss of the floor, and the soft hum of the cameras all created an atmosphere of a show that seemed about to spiral out of control. It was the late-night talk show. America Without Filters, a new phenomenon on cable television. A little politics, a little pop culture, and a maximum of frankness. That evening, the studio was crowded. The audience, journalists, bloggers, fans and haters were present in the hall. Everyone came for one thing: to see Elon Musk and Robert De Niro come together on the same stage. The moderator of the show, Laura Hill, smiled discreetly. Her only task was to prevent this meeting from turning into a verbal massacre. But even she understood that this was partly what the audience had been waiting for. When the screensaver started playing, the applause exploded. De Niro was the first to take the stage. In a black shirt, with his sleeves rolled up, he looked like a man who had come not to visit, but to fight. His face was focused, but there was determination in his eyes. "Thanks for inviting me," he said, sitting down in an armchair. "I hope this will be not just a conversation, but a real exchange of opinions." Musk followed. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, with a grin, slightly relaxed, but his eyes betrayed the tension. He nodded briefly to De Niro, without extending his hand. In response, he did not even pretend to notice it. "Well," Laura began, "we're having an honesty night tonight. Uncensored, without scripts. The theme is obvious: Donald Trump and his political legacy. I'm just setting a vector. Everything else is up to you." "Easy," Musk replied. "It's time to stop demonizing Trump. He did something that others did not even dare to suggest. Got the economy back on its feet. Destroyed useless bureaucratic barriers. It may not always be politically correct, but it is effective." "Effective?" De Niro leaned forward, clenching his fist. "Do you call the transformation of the country into a circus effective? He destroyed respect for institutions. He turned the presidential office into a Twitter arena. This is a disgrace, not a policy." Musk grinned. "You sound like an actor, not an analyst." "Institutions? Respect? If you want respect, earn it. At least Trump was real. People knew who they were voting for. Without falsehood. The real thing?" De Niro snorted. "A real crook, narcissist and provocateur. His authenticity led to the storming of the Capitol. Do you call that candor, too?" The audience held its breath. The moderator leaned forward a little, but did not interfere. The argument was just beginning. "And you, Bob," Musk continued, "are such a voice of the people, until you get to the people you disagree with. Trump had real ideas: to bring back jobs, strengthen borders, and stop being a vassal of international structures. Or is it closer to you to be governed from Brussels? It's closer to me to be a human being, not a caricature of a cowboy." De Niro snapped. "And if you had just once looked not at the numbers, but at how he divided people by skin color, beliefs, and origin, you would understand the danger. This is not the president. He's a cultist. You just can't accept that the old elite has lost," Musk retorted sharply. "Trump was the one who was chosen in spite of you. Despite Hollywood. Contrary to journalism. Despite all of you who thought you knew better. You're just offended." The audience gasped, and for the first time that evening, Laura leaned into the microphone. "Elon, Robert. Let's respect each other after all." The two of them didn't take their eyes off each other. "I respect honesty," De Niro said. "But when honesty turns into cynicism, it is no longer freedom. It's a disease. And I respect facts," Musk snapped. "And the fact is that the economy grew under Trump. Unemployment was falling. And if someone was offended by his tweets, well, I'm sorry. Politics is not a kindergarten." The light in the studio became brighter. The cameras captured every facial expression, every gesture, every flash of tension. The show had barely started, but it already felt like it would go down in history. After a few minutes of intense exchange, the tension in the studio did not subside. On the contrary, the audience was literally riveted to the screens. There have already been outbreaks of discussion on the internet. The hashtag Musk vs De Niro instantly trended on Twitter. Some supported Elon, others sided with De Niro, and some simply could not tear themselves away from the spectacle. The moderator decided to change the conversation vector a bit, but what followed only added fuel to the fire. All right, Laura said. Let's do this. Donald Trump is certainly one of the most controversial figures of the last decade. But he had an army of supporters. And he still has influence over millions of people. Why do you think that is? Musk immediately seized the initiative, because he was telling the truth. People are tired of pretending. I'm tired of the artificiality of politicians like Obama, who have excellent speech and zero action. Trump was rude, clumsy, but he spoke bluntly. It symbolized resistance to the system. Telling the truth. De Niro grinned furiously. He lied every day. He was a master manipulator. A brilliant businessman. A man who declared bankruptcy 6 times. The patriot, who ran away from the army with fake diagnoses. He wasn't telling the truth. He knew what kind of lies the crowd wanted to hear. You're confusing charisma with lies, Musk retorted, not giving in to either intonation or energy. He knew how to talk to ordinary people. And that's more important than the theatrical moralizing you eat, Bob. Seriously, you're reading monologues, and he was acting. Do you call actions the destruction of confidence in the elections? De Niro raised an eyebrow. Or the constant humiliation of the press? Or a maniacal desire for a cult of personality? And you forget, Musk replied, that the media has been bullying him since day one. As soon as he put his hand on the Bible, the hunt began. The Russian trail, fake accusations, impeachment for every sneeze. How would you behave if a bucket of slop was poured on you every day? I wouldn't act like a teenager on Twitter, De Niro snapped. The president is not a commentator on Reddit. This is responsibility, dignity. And he turned everything into a reality show. You may be a technologist, Elon, but you don't see how finely society is organized. It is kept in balance. And he broke everything, and he did it with a grin. Musk was silent for a moment. But not because he had nothing to say. He seemed to be waiting for the audience to digest what he had said. He looked at the audience and calmly, even mockingly, said, or maybe what he broke wasn't worth saving. Lightning ran through the rows. There was applause, but also a murmur of discontent. The argument escalated. Laura tried to intervene again. Gentlemen, can we return to the topic of influencing the future? After all, we are discussing not so much Trump himself as what the world will be like after him. The world after him, De Niro said sharply, will be a world of restoration. After a fire, the clearing of rubble always begins. And we will do it, without clowns in the Oval Office. America doesn't need showmen. We are not Hollywood, we are a country. Musk nodded, but then added. The problem is that you want to bring back the pre-Trump order, as if it were perfect. But he also gave birth to Trump. He became a symptom of a rotten system. And if you want it not back up, De Niro replied without hesitation. It will be a disaster. He hasn't changed. He remains the same person who denies science, bullies his opponents, and makes a farce out of democracy. We cannot allow America to become his plaything again. Musk shrugged his shoulders. Maybe America is grateful to him for this? He didn't pretend to be a saint, he didn't wear a mask. He represented a part of the country that you, and others like you, have ignored for decades. Abandoned America, the one with no votes at the Oscars, but with votes in the election. Stop it, De Niro snapped. You romanticize populism. He is not a fighter for the people. He used their fears and anger to consolidate his power. This is demagogy, not reform. Maybe, but reform is not just about laws. It's a shake-up. And he gave it to me, Musk said confidently. Look at how many people have become interested in politics. How many systemic weaknesses have been revealed. He turned the game around. And you're just angry that you couldn't control it. Because the game has become dangerous. De Niro cried out. Because this shake-up has cost us division, violence and fear. You want to play the architect of a new reality, but you ignore the consequences. You have no right to be neutral when the country is at stake. And you don't have the right to speak for everyone, Bob, Musk replied, and there was steel in his voice. You come from a world where the lines are written in advance. But reality is unpredictable. And if you think that you can just cancel millions of Trump supporters, you are deeply mistaken. I don't want to cancel them, De Niro snapped angrily. I want them to stop being hostages of lies. He's not a god, Elon. And not a hero. He's just a master of distraction. And so do you, it seems. Laura, seeing that the dispute was gaining momentum again, tried to return the dialogue to a more rational course. Okay. But if we talk about the future, about the younger generation who is watching all this, what kind of example will this dialogue be for them? What are we broadcasting, other than conflict? Musk looked directly into the camera. We broadcast freedom. The right to say what you think. Without fear of being cancelled, without an editor, without a filter. This is democracy. Sometimes it's dirty, loud, and uncomfortable, but it's real. I'd like to show respect, De Niro said. Respect for the truth. To the institutes. To people who suffered from decisions made without empathy. Democracy is not just freedom of speech. It is also a responsibility for words. Doesn't the freedom to be uncomfortable also require respect? Musk retorted. Or do we have some people who deserve a word and others who don't? You're oversimplifying everything. De Niro shook his head. You want the policy to be a code, 0 or 1. But people are not machines. They have pain, history, and experience. And when you ignore it, you are not a reformer. You're an experimenter. At that moment, the audience burst into applause. But almost simultaneously, posts in defense of Musk began to appear on social networks. The show became an arena for a deep conflict between two approaches to the future of the country. Between emotion and logic, between intuition and analysis, between idealism and pragmatism. And while they continued to argue, outside the studio, on the streets, in bars, in chat rooms, people also chose sides. Musk and De Niro have become symbols of a new ideological dichotomy. Meanwhile, outside the show's studio, the echoes of their discussion reverberated across the country. News, evening podcasts, TikTok reactions, YouTube reviews, the whole space has become an arena for discussion. Memes with Musk's phrase, "Maybe what he broke wasn't worth saving," spread like a virus. Some perceived this as a call for a rethink of the political system, while others saw it as an excuse for destructive policies. The next day, the morning headlines were relentless. CNN. Musk justifies Trump. Futurism or dangerous rhetoric. Fox News. De Niro loses control in dispute with Musk. Who's telling the truth now? The Atlantic. Hollywood versus Silicon Valley. The rhetoric of division. The politicians did not stay away either. Democrats criticized Elon for his ignorance of humanitarian issues, while Republicans praised him for his courage and directness. Some of Trump's old associates even publicly thanked Musk for his reasonable position. One senator from Texas wrote in X, "If even Musk understands this, then maybe it's time for Hollywood to sit down and listen." And De Niro, despite the wave of criticism, received support from cultural figures and human rights activists. Famous actors, directors, and writers posted posts with the hashtag #IStandWithDeNiro. They applauded his courage, his emotionality, his position, which he defended not for the sake of likes, but out of conviction. Graffiti appeared on the streets of New York. On one of them is a portrait of a mask and a signature, "The God of the Algorithm." On the other is De Niro's face with the inscription, "The Voice of Conscience." It was already more than an argument, it was a visualized ideological war, a symbolic duel of epics. And in colleges and universities, teachers used excerpts from the show in teaching materials on politics and media. One professor from Chicago even gave an entire lecture entitled, "Musk versus De Niro. A New Social Conflict in American Identity." An even tougher discussion unfolded on Reddit. One user wrote, "Musk just called a spade a spade. We are tired of these eternal snot about democracy. We want efficiency." They answered him, "Efficiency without conscience is authoritarianism." De Niro is right. You can't turn a country into a technology platform. Meanwhile, the studio where the show took place received hundreds of emails and messages. Someone demanded to invite Musk again. Someone wanted to hear De Niro's response. Some threatened. Others offered donations. A TV show that used to garner modest ratings has suddenly become the most talked about broadcast of the week. The channel announced a special edition, Open America, Musk, De Niro and Us. They planned to gather a group of experts and public figures to discuss the aftermath of that night. Meanwhile, Elon Musk, as if nothing had happened, posted a photo on his Instagram with the caption, "The conversation was interesting. Thoughts don't always match, and thank God." There are 500,000 likes and hundreds of thousands of comments under the post. Someone was thanking me. Someone was swearing. Someone asked, "Will there be a sequel?" And Robert De Niro took to the stage in Brooklyn the next evening, not for filming, but to meet the audience. And before he started, he said, "If the truth scares someone, it means that it works." The applause was long and loud. They both set off a wave that was already uncontrollable. In the following days, the tension only increased. Their argument has become more than just a disagreement between two celebrities. He has become a symbol of the confrontation between the two Americas, technological and humanitarian, rational and emotional, the one that looks to the future and the one that holds on to the foundation. Discussion clubs began to appear all over the country, in universities, cafes, even in libraries. It was not so much the personal opinions of Musk and De Niro that were discussed there, as the very possibility of talking about it openly, arguing without fear. Young people, students, bloggers, podcasters, found inspiration in this dialogue. It has become a kind of textbook on civil disagreement. At Columbia University, a group of students organized a panel titled, "The Frontier of Reason, Freedom, Technology, and Conscience in America After Musk and De Niro." An online discussion took place at MIT, where students argued whether Elon Musk could be considered an intellectual representative of the new conservatism. And at the University of California, Santa Cruz, there's a lecture called Actor versus Innovator. Polarization as an Engine of Public Dialogue. The New Yorker magazine published a long analytical article with the headline, Clash Culture. Why the Musk-De Niro dispute was necessary for... Meanwhile, behind the scenes of the show, where it all began, Laura Hill was experiencing an unprecedented increase in interest in her format. She has already negotiated with major platforms to create a new software cycle. Incompatible is a series of conversations between people with opposing views. I realized one thing, she said in an interview with Vanity Fair. People are tired of false harmony. They want to see how the disagreement sounds for real. Without a script, without masks, even if it's inconvenient. Meanwhile, both Musk and De Niro began receiving invitations, each from their own side. Musk was invited to hold an AMA session, Ask Me Anything, on Reddit and speak at a forum in Texas on the politics of the future. De Niro was invited to a conference of civic initiatives in New York and offered to read the opening speech at the opening of the documentary film festival. But none of them has agreed yet. Their silence after such a vivid encounter only fueled their interest. People argued, got inspired, and got angry. Some thanked Musk for bringing down the arrogance of the elite. Others admired De Niro for his fearless directness. And some, and there were more and more of them, began to wonder, maybe all this polarization is also a performance? Maybe there's a hidden scene behind the heated words? Anyway, the conversation they started continued to live. By the end of the second week, public interest had not just not faded, it had reached a new level. Popular talk shows invited philosophers, neuroscientists, and even anthropologists to understand the phenomenon. Why did the dispute between two famous people, in fact, reveal a fundamental conflict in the nation's self-awareness? An open forum was held in Chicago with the participation of former politicians, activists, and students. One of the participants, a professor of sociology, said, "We are witnessing a clash of two archetypes. Musk is the epitome of technological neo-futurism, where morality is replaced by functionality. And De Niro is the voice of nostalgic humanism, where truth is more important than efficiency. This dispute is not about Trump. It's about what a person is in the 21st century." Meanwhile, a march in support of freedom of speech was held in Texas. People carried placards reading, "The right to disagree is also a democracy." Musk is not a politician, but he said out loud what we thought. But there were also counter-demonstrations. They were shouted at, "Don't normalize populism." De Niro told the truth. Musk said the internet has literally polarized. Algorithms picked up on the topic, and avatars with the hashtags #TeamElon and #Team De Niro began to appear on social networks. People shared clips, excerpts, and memes en masse. Someone even created an Instagram filter that added phrases from the dispute to users' photos. Amid all this media storm, some politicians, especially during the Senate elections, began using quotes from the show in their speeches. One candidate from Arizona said at the debate, We need Musk's approach. Less theater, more action. We're not on the Broadway stage, we're in real life. And his opponent, a Democrat, retorted, if you want to live in a world where algorithms and trolls are in power, go ahead. But I believe, like De Niro, in responsibility and conscience. Meanwhile, the heroes of the debate, Musk and De Niro, kept their distance. None of them has made any new statements publicly. But this silence, paradoxically, spoke louder than any words. Some journalists began to suggest that they had agreed to silence in order to give the public an opportunity to reflect on what had happened. Others wrote that they both realized that the dialogue they had started had gone beyond personal enmity and had become part of something bigger. The Guardian journalist wrote in her blog, Musk and De Niro are not antagonists. These are two projections of the same nation. And the fact that they met face to face, not in court or on Twitter, is already a victory. Perhaps the future of democracy lies not in unity, but in the courage to be different. Against this background, the channel on which the show was released announced the next issue. The headline was simple, Musk, De Niro, echo. No details were provided, and thousands of people across the country froze in anticipation. Will there be a sequel? Will they return to the studio? And if so, will they now be able to talk not to argue, but to listen? Fueled by the silence of the heroes, public unrest continued to grow. Every word, every leak, every careless remark from anyone who had ever communicated with Musk or De Niro immediately made headlines. Against the background of this hype, conspiracy theories began to appear. Some claimed that the show was staged, others were manipulated by the platforms for the sake of ratings. But the majority still continued to discuss the essence. Where is the boundary between freedom of thought and dangerous rhetoric? In Boston, a group of psychology professors organized an experiment. They divided students into the Musk group and the De Niro group, and invited them to develop a concept for a new political movement. The result was amazing. Both groups came to almost identical decisions, just argued them differently. This is not a question of ideology, commented Professor Miriam Holt. This is a question of language. We want change the same way, we just talk about it on different frequencies. Meanwhile, the show, Open America, on which the very dispute broke out, suddenly took off the air for a week. Presenter Laura Hill stated that, the project has entered a new phase, and a pause is needed to reset the format. At the same time, in one of the private clubs in Los Angeles, Elon Musk was spotted in the company of former SpaceX employees and several young senators. Eyewitnesses claimed that the conversation was about a new digital model of civic engagement. On the other side of the country, in Tribeca, De Niro held a private meeting with a group of veterans and activists advocating for political finance reform. One of the participants later said, he speaks simply, not like a star, as a man who is afraid that America is ceasing to be itself. Journalists were increasingly comparing them to icons of the eras. The Mask is with Edison, De Niro is with James Dean, as if the spirits of 2 centuries have come together in their dispute. And this metaphor has caught on in the film industry. 3 screenwriters are already rumored to have proposed projects based on their encounter, from drama to political satire. One famous producer joked in an interview, if they don't play themselves, I'll be offended. And now, 21 days after the broadcast, the news appeared. Laura Hill is preparing a new issue, live, with a live audience. Without specifying. No announcements, only the date and time. Speculation flared up with renewed vigor. Will Musk and De Niro return? Or will it be their response, through others? Or a completely unexpected sequel, a new face, a new conflict? Meanwhile, debates began to take place across the country under the slogan, if you were in their shoes, what would you say? In high schools, at university debates, even in company work groups, people lost the situation, no matter how they argued with Elon or Robert. For some it was a game, for others it was a test of civic thinking. It became increasingly clear that the show provided not only a topic for discussion, but also a format. People were learning to talk to each other all over again. Disagree. Don't be afraid of disagreement. The silence of Musk and De Niro, contrary to expectations, did not disappoint, it mobilized. And now, as the day of the new release approached, the whole country seemed to freeze in its tracks. The evening of the long-awaited broadcast has arrived. The studio in Brooklyn, converted to live filming, was shrouded in a light fog of spotlights and the intense hum of the audience. People came from different states, from Texas businessmen to New York students. Everyone has a different motivation. Someone wanted to see the emotional intensity again. Someone wants to hear an apology. And someone just wants to understand how this informal political drama will end. Backstage, Laura Hill nervously adjusted her earpiece. Despite the fact that she had already hosted hundreds of broadcasts, today was different. No script, no confirmed themes. The only promise is that two people will meet face to face again. The lights went out, and to the applause they entered the studio. Elon Musk is wearing a dark jacket, with an almost mocking smile and a habitual manner of leisurely approaching the chair. Robert De Niro is wearing a gray jacket, with a straight posture, stubborn gaze and slight tension in his jaw. There were no handshakes this time. But there was no hostility either. "Good evening," Laura began when the audience had calmed down. "Thank you for being here. 2 weeks ago, you woke up the country. And now, she's listening." Neither Musk nor De Niro responded immediately. There was silence for a few seconds. Then Musk, turning his head slightly, "I'm not here to apologize. And not to change my mind. I'm here because I care where we're going. That is all." "Okay," De Niro replied calmly. "Then let's get to the point. Without pathos, without masks. America is not a company. It cannot be run like a startup." Musk nodded, as if he had been waiting for just such a call. "America is in a coma, Robert. And if you want to treat her with monologues from the screen, then you are not a doctor. You're an actor playing a doctor." There was a slight chuckle from the audience. But De Niro didn't smile. "What about you? An unlicensed surgeon? Who operates in front of everyone without